What's up, YouTube? It's FitzBro, and welcome to our tier list for the god powers of Age of Mythology Retold. We're going to be going through all of the god powers that exist and rating them S through D tier. Now, if you've been through one of my tier lists before, I typically go through, get kind of an initial spot of where I think they're going to go, and then I'll kind of reevaluate as we get towards the end and make some final adjustments. So as we go through this, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think I get right? What do you think I got wrong? Of course, opinions are great. We all have them. But let's get into this. This is going to be our God Power tier list, beginning of October 2024. And we have maybe the most classic of all God powers, Bolt. Now, this is, of course, available to Zeus right at the beginning of the game. And honestly, I think it's kind of a nice middle of the road god power. Of course, you can bolt down any unit out there. It's not like particularly OP. It's not particularly bad. I think it's a middle of the road god power. We're going to start with it in B. I could maybe see shifting it up later. I almost wonder also if we could almost do this tier list like per age, but you know, for what it's worth, you know, obviously the earlier age god powers, trying to compare them against mythics can be hard, but we'll do what we can. Okay, so Bolt, we're going to put right here in the middle. Now, next, we're looking at the sentries. Now, this comes in from Poseidon. This is for defending your town center, and this too, I'd say, is a rather middle of the road, maybe leveraging on the higher tier. And the only reason I say that is because this really protects your base early on from raids. It's very hard to be diving underneath Hades' bases. Not to mention they could potentially put this on a forward town center. I think it actually puts it a little higher than Bolt if I were going to pick from the beginning god powers. And I'm going to place it for now, starting off probably some here in the A tier. I think it's a pretty nice god power. Now, next, we're looking at Lure. This is from Poseidon, another Age 1 god power. I think it's nice, but it's not something I get like super excited about. Now, Poseidon players might say, you know, Poseidon's one of the better civs. It's very nice, get your food nice and close, but I don't think this compares to like taking out an enemy myth unit at the beginning of the next age or whatever it might be. I'm gonna put Lure here in the C tier for now. I think it's an okay god power, but nothing to write home about, certainly. Now, here we go. We got Rain, and this might be a controversial one. Now, you know I've been playing tons of Ra, so I'm going to have a lot of opinions on the Egyptian god powers, but Rain, this is a tricky one because I feel like if you can stretch the game far, like, yeah, you go in the later stages of the game and you might think, okay, this starts to become like a B or A god power, but I'll tell you what, in most games, it's really in your interest not to really even go into farming with Ra, and to have a god power that sits there in the bank, doesn't really come into use to maybe late age 3, not to mention this is an age 1 god power you essentially don't use until the later stages of the game. I'm gonna put Rain in the D tier. I really think that's where it deserves. I think it's maybe lower than you might think because I do like it, particularly in the later stages of the game, but just like overall value, Rain in most cases is not going to be it. It's just not. It's not better than the other god powers we'll be looking at. So let me know what you think. Am I too harsh on Rain? You know I like Ra. Now, next we're looking at Prosperity. This is for Isis, and boy, I like this one quite a bit, honestly. Economic one makes you gather your gold faster. I like it whether you're going up to the age 2 or rather you're saving it up, getting it when you have a lot of villagers on gold going into age 3 or something like that. I would say this is maybe a B or maybe even range an A tier. It's kind of hard to compare some kind of god powers like this. You know, Sentinel keeps people out of your base. I don't know if Prosperity necessarily does that. Obviously, it's a big booster eco. I almost could put it somewhere in the middle. I'm going to leave it in the B tier for now. I think that's where Prosperity go. As far as the Age 1 god powers, though, certainly on the higher end, we may come back and revisit this. So we'll see as we go on. We got a lot to go through here. Now, next, we're looking at Spy here. Now, like, I gotta make sure I get this right. We have 2 eyeballs in this. One of them is Spy, and one of them is Vision from Set. And oh boy, I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember which one is actually Spy. I think this is Spy from Loki, but I could be wrong. So I apologize if I am. So Spy for Loki, gonna be an early god power you get. I think actually gonna be pretty good. You can put this on an opponent's gold mine or something like that, right? And see where they're going. Hit some like game-ending raids later on. Could be absolutely really quite nice. I don't know if it's as good as like the Sentinel. Again, like I think this is kind of where I set the bar of like I feel like Sentinel is a pretty nice god power to have. I don't know if it's as strong as that. And like comparing it to these other ones, you're looking at Bold, you're looking at Prosperity. I might have to shift some of these down later on. I don't know if Spy really goes into A tier for me. As far as I know, we got a lot of god powers to get to. I'm gonna let them chill here for now. We may reevaluate some of these here as we move on. Now, this is the Vision 4 set, right? Reveals a part of the map. You can get a tech to use it multiple times. This certainly is a lower tier god power. This doesn't feel as strengthful, as good as these. I don't think it's like a crap god power. Particularly, I think it's cool because you can get a god power, an upgrade to use it over and over again. So I think it deserves higher than D tier. But I think I'm gonna settle that in C for now for that Vision 4 set. Now, oh my gosh, Dwarven Mine. This is what we call a sleeper god power, maybe. Like, you wouldn't think this would be super high, but this is the thing. This is free gold. You spawn under your town center. Nobody can raid this gold, and your dwarves gather from it faster. Not to mention, you can use this over and over again, like every god power in Age of Mythology Retold. But I almost wonder if you wouldn't think it almost borderlines S tier. And the only reason I say that is because gold becomes so scarce in later stages of the game. Not to mention, like, some of the biggest villager losses you're going to take is out on your gold mines. I think it could almost be close to the S tier, which is crazy to say for an Age 1 god power. But I'm going to save this for some of the truly elite god powers. I think as far as economic tier goes, this is probably one of the best here, looking at that Dwarven Mine for Thor. Now, we've got the Great Hunt for Odin. This is going to be duplicating some animals out there for some extra food. How does this is kind of comparable, I guess, to the lure. But I don't know, like, how do you even compare like these two side by side? They are quite similar. They're bringing you more food. This is literally creating more food out of nothing, right? This is just bringing food from around the map. So I kind of feel like Great Hunt is a little bit better in that regards. I'm gonna put it in the middle because particularly at the beginning of the game, it's like this is extra boost under your TC, more food you're gonna have. I mean, I don't know, these two. This is what I'm gonna be really torn on, quite honestly, guys. I just don't know why, but my gut feeling is I feel like Great Hunt's just slightly better than Lure. I'm gonna leave it like this. We'll see as we come back. Those are certainly comparable god powers. Now, looking at the Gillenbursty for a Freyr. This is defensive god power, and I'd say early on I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is S tier. It is so good. Freyr has been a little underwhelming lately in the meta. I find this kind of similar to Rain sometimes. Well, not necessarily the same, but like a god power that sits in your bank for a long time, and sometimes it ends up it's like it doesn't even come into play depending on what happens on the map. Can be very situational, can be particularly clutch sometimes defending, but I feel like players are pretty good at baiting it out, avoiding it, knowing it's there. I think it's a B tier. I think we're gonna have a lot of, like, there certainly are a number of these, and like I don't feel so bad about this so far. Like, I think there's gonna be a lot of like kind of middle of the road god powers. There's gonna be a few that stick out that are like particularly good and particularly bad, and I think that's okay. Gillenbursty can be really impactful, can turn the, this is something that can turn the tide of a battle, right? Your lure is not going to be bailing you out of a fight. I mean, I don't think we can even say like Great Hunts on board with that. We'll bump it down. Spy, I think so. Prosperity, I think these are okay. Maybe some arguments, some of these could go down. That's what we're going to leave for now. Gillenbursty, going to be a B tier god power for me. Now, Deconstruction. Boy, I feel like this is where my biases are going to come in. I really like this god power a lot. I don't know why. It's one of my more favorite god powers to use. I don't know if it's just, I feel like it's more fun than it like actually is damaging because your opponent literally gets the resources back. Yeah, it can delay some things. I mean, I like getting rid of like an opponent's hill forward or power or whatever it might be. I particularly like using it on docks. I mean, I'd say on water map really puts it up there, but I don't think it's an A tier. But I think I like using Deconstruction better than I like some of these god powers, particularly early on. Man, I don't know. I think if they didn't get the resources back, maybe we could say it's a B tier, but really it's just more of an annoyance in a lot of situations. Probably truly a C tier god power, and that's what we're going to place it for right now. Now we're taking a look at Shockwave for Atlanteans. Now, Shockwave, it pushes your enemies back. It can really be impactful in the moment of like a fight, right? It can really impact a big battle. And for that, I think it is worthy of a B tier god power. I mean, this one big fight can determine a game. Of course, you shock your enemy, split up their front line, whatever it might be, do the shockwave. So, like, well, I don't think it's a particularly amazing. I think used situationally, kind of like the Gilbursty in the right moment, can turn the tide of a battle, and I think is worthy of being a B tier god power. Now, ooh, this is a hard one. Right? We've got the Gaia Forest. Now, I get a lot of wood out of this, and Gaia has been an S tier civ. So this is one of those, like, I don't know, do you call this a sleeper OP god power? Because it's an economic god power. It's just growing a few trees, right? But I don't think the Gaia Forest really compares to the Dwarven Mine. Like, trees are usually pretty plentiful, easier to be defended against raid than perhaps gold is. Like, yes, they get trees from it faster. It can be particularly good on water maps and stuff, but I don't think it's as high as the Dwarven Mine. And I'm not even certain that it's as good as things like Prosperity, Bolt, Gilbursty, Shockwave, or see some of these. I'm going to put Gaia Forest in the C tier. I feel like it's getting a little bit of the short end of the stick here, but that's where I think it maybe should be for now. I mean, Gaia's been really good. You can maybe make arguments here, but compared to some of what else the relative would also put in B tier, I think Gaia Force is going to be sitting in C for me for right now. It's crazy. The trees are higher than the rain, and that goes to show you. Now, let's take a look at our next one. We've got Restoration. Okay, so this is for the Greeks. Healing up, of course, mid-battle can really change the tide of a battle. Is Restoration on par when we look at like our Shockwave and stuff? I'd say it is. I'd almost wonder, I feel like there could be arguments for A. Now, I won't lie to you, I don't play a ton of Greeks. Of course, we've casted plenty of them. We've seen plenty of it. While early on, I feel like I almost would have said that Restoration is an A tier god power, I feel like there's so many more we're going to get to that would certainly be like, no, those are definitely the A and the S tier as we see some of this other list coming up. So I'm going to be conservative with it. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think it's maybe a little bit better than some of these, but of course, like trying to scale these out of like age 1 versus later age god powers, you know, a little tricky as it is. I think it's kind of a middle of the road, like decent god power. Like, okay, let's go to the next one. Like a lot of times you're comparing it to Curse, right? Like Curse, absolutely an S tier god power. Like, so that's the thing you're comparing to age 3 god powers is like, this guy isn't up here. He's just, it's not the same as going up with Curse for the Greeks. Of course, you're turning your enemy's army into swine. You're turning them into pigs. It can be just completely change the momentum of your opponent. You hit age 3, boom, you snap all their army into pigs. I think it's an S tier. I think maybe, yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it's steadily an S tier god power. We're gonna put it there. The pigs. You never would imagine. Ceasefire. Ooh. One of those, another god power that's like, man, this is very situational. How you use it. Oh boy, I'm torn on this. Now, it can save you from a big raid, but it doesn't necessarily cause you to like win a fight or put you decisively ahead in many situations. I feel like Ceasefire is like worthy of a B tier, but at the same time, the fact that it's global, and while it might save you from a big raid in a moment as kind of an oh button, it doesn't help you necessarily win a fight in many situations. Your opponent also can benefit from the ceasefire to build up different stuff, get set up, whatever it might be. It's not like taking out the enemy's army, shockwaving them, restoring, like helping you win a fight, right? It's just kind of stalling the inevitable. Though I'd like to put in a B, I think it is going to be a C tier, which makes it just get really challenging already, because I feel like Ceasefire is on the higher end compared to these other ones we're looking at. But again, we'll reevaluate as we get towards the end. I'm going to put it there right now. Maybe shafting Ceasefire a little bit. Now, Pestilence. I feel like this is a god power we don't see a whole lot. We don't see a ton of people going up with Ares, with Greeks. I think it's decent. It doesn't feel like a B tier to me. I'd almost say even ranges like, I feel like it could be really nice in the moment. Almost is like, I feel like rain is like actually a god power. I don't feel like the same is for Pestilence, so I hate to put him down here. Man, I almost want more tiers, which I never feel like I need for these type of tier lists. But I just don't think it's as good as these others we're looking at here. I think it's going to be in D tier. I think Pestilence, it's lower than maybe what it deserves, but D tier is where I'm going to put him for now. Eclipse. Oh boy, we got several Egyptian god powers coming up. Okay, Eclipse. Boy, oh boy. This is going to be buffing up your myth units, of course. I've been liking Eclipse a lot lately. Particularly, I like the fact that it makes your special ability for your myth units like recharge faster, especially with the Sphinx. You can spin to win, run away, spin to win, right? You get some crazy attacks with that. Not to mention the combo of this with Ancestors can be particularly impactful. I think it's a nice B tier god power. I'd almost say, like for me, but I'm a little biased for the Egyptians, could head towards A, but I think this is steadily a B tier god power. It's a nice middle of the road one, nice to have. I think it can hold a candle up to some of these other ones. Let's leave it there for now. Shifting Sands. Ah, man, some of these are so hard to put in a box because again, like, boy, if you, depending on how you use this, you could use it for the super offensive, right? And go use a timing attack to take out your opponent, or perhaps using it as like an oh shit to save your army, to defend, to retreat. But you know what's going to lead me towards moving Shifting Sands down here is think about the number of games that end where Shifting Sands is still in the bank. There's many times you actually don't get to the point of using it. Somewhat could say it as Eclipse, but I feel like Eclipse more likely gets used in many situations. Oh boy. These two are very close together, and I almost feel like Shifting Sands is the better out of... Oh man, this is a hard one to decide. Guys, sound off. What do you think? Shifting Sands and Eclipse, where do these guys go? I'm gonna do my best here, but it is hard to get this perfect. We gotta do these side by side. I think I like Shifting Sands a little bit better. I just love doing the like sneak attack, and if I see an opponent's gold mine, dropping my whole army there, or retreating my army, hold back to my base. Like the sheer impact that Shifting Sands can have versus like obviously this is a huge power spike, but this thing can be kind of a more of a momentum change. I think I have to put Shifting Sands a little bit higher. We're gonna bump Eclipse down into the C tier. Ooh, doesn't feel great. Some of these might move up to here. We might move some of these up. We'll see as we go. Okay, the snakes. Now, before I would have said snakes was probably a solid like A god power. I thought it was like pretty decent. Not because the snakes do a lot of damage, but like they would tank a lot of fire in a battle. Anymore though, I hate to say it, the snakes might literally be D tier because now they come up like 1, 2, 3 snakes at a time, right? It's super, super slow. And the thing is like, okay, you're using this in a battle. They're coming up so slowly that they're not really fighting anything. They don't add a whole lot to the engagements. Your opponent has time to react, run away from them. I just don't feel like they make a whole lot of a difference anymore. And I think that we're going to be putting the snakes down here. They're going to be living in the D tier, which is hard to say, like, I don't know, but yeah, I think that's where it is. I think it's a D tier. Man, we got several Egyptian ones here already. Let's keep moving on. Now, the Forest Fire. Man, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on Forest Fire because I always feel like it's underwhelming. I never am like, oh man, I got hit by this Forest Fire. Like it can like kind of reposition your army in a fight, and it's like inconvenient a little bit. But it never feels something that I'm like super afraid of. Like, yeah, it draws a little bit of idle time. But like, I would be way more impacted by like a ceasefire stopping one of my raids, or Eclipse with a combo with myth units than I would be worried about Forest Fire. Now saying like, okay, well, lure, it's hard to like compare some of these offensive versus economic god power, certainly, but like this is knowledge of where your enemy is. This is like where 10 villagers are to raid. Like that's huge. We're looking at extra food, safe under TC early on. That stuff's like very impactful. This is like kind of yet again like an annoyance, but not super impactful. I feel like a lot of Norse players are going to disagree. Like I know people love to go up with Freya and use the Forest Fire, but I think it's mostly because the Valkyrie is so good, along with some of the upgrades. Forest Fire, I'm gonna put it in D. Maybe it could be a C tier, but I'm not a Forest Fire enjoyer. Not really not. Okay, so we got the Healing Spring, and this is a weird one because it's almost always like a nice god power to have. Depending on how you use it and where you use it, can be more impactful than others. I think it's maybe a C tier. It's a nice god power. It's not something that's super, like if you're really, really good at your micro and keeping your individual units alive, using this as a way to retreat and push with that or slow creep, maybe more of a B tier god power, but I think it's a C tier. I think it's nice to have. Not going to like super sway the battle in many ways in most situations. You know, I say this because I know Vortex is like a god micro or keeping his units alive underneath the Healing Spring, right? But we're gonna put that. Now we're looking at Undermine. This is coming from Heimdall with the Norse. I feel like I don't see this a whole lot, but when I do get hit with it, man, it's pretty annoying. It can take out your towers, can take whatever buildings you're making. Maybe it's a hill fort, whatever it might be. But I don't think it's a B tier. I don't think it's as going to go as high as some of these. I don't think it's a shit god power compared to some of these others. Although I don't know, like I don't know if it's that much better. But like Forest Fire is gonna like burn down a house. This is like it could take out a fortress, right? This could like stop your enemy from a town center they're building, right? Going to be definitely a little bit more impactful than the snakes or the farms, pestilence. I'm going to put it in the C tier for Undermine. Okay. Ooh. Yes, Guardian Hill Fort. So this is going to be from Freyr, right? It's an age 2 Hill Fort. Where does it go? Just the sheer amount of time it takes to spawn it in. It really doesn't feel like it's a B, A, or S tier. Is it a C tier or a D tier, I guess is the question. I feel like if I had the choice as I'm playing Ra, you know, I'm a Ra main, like if I could have a Rain or I could have a Hill Fort, I would probably choose the Hill Fort in most situations. If there is maybe an in-between tier here, I would perhaps put him there. But I think it's not going to be a D tier for me. It's a C tier. So we're going to put the Hill Fort for now. Okay. Now here's an interesting one. This is Valor. This converts any Atlantean unit into a hero, right? Free heroization, and its cost to recast doesn't cost us in a favor. And while I don't think it's a major impact god power, I think it provides a lot of value to Atlantean players, getting a lot of additional heroes out, not to mention the fact that like you can have a unit almost dead, use Valor, bring them back to full health. I think it can be a very nice, it provides a lot of value. Like it doesn't impact other players as much as this, perhaps not, but I would say like as if you've played any amount of Atlanteans, I think you should have a little bit of respect for Valor. I think it is worthy of a B tier. I always am happy to have it. You just got to remember to use it frequently. I think it's got good god power. Okay, easiest one we've had tonight, the Spider Lair. This is absolutely a god power. This thing, first of all, if you've aged up with Lido, we gotta have a come to Jesus moment. Let me know, is anyone actually aging up with these guys? This is part of the reason why not, because this god power is so terrible, along with the automatons. It's bad. It's bad. If we had I think we almost need a tier below this. I think this is maybe lower than Rain, in my opinion. Maybe giving the spiders a hard rep here, but this is a bad god power. It's just not great. Not great. Carnivora. Not particularly amazing, but I don't think it's a D tier. I think it is steadily a C tier god power. It's nice to throw out there. It's annoying in a fight. Yeah, it might force your opponent out of position or something, maybe eat a unit or two. I But I think it's a C tier. I don't think it's particularly something amazing. We're gonna leave it there. Underworld, the Underworld Passage. Ooh, this is a very different one, right? This is kind of like similar if you were to compare to like, I guess, Shifting Sands as far as teleporting across the map. And honestly, I think I like it as a B tier. You can jump, you can reuse it compared actually to Shifting Sands. But it can be nice hopping across, attacking your opponent, going back home, out to good gold mine, whatever it might be. Of course, it's a later age god power, going to be a little bit stronger than, you know, some of these other ones. And, you know, it is kind of fitting. We put a lot of our age 1 or age 2 god powers here, and it would make sense. You'll see some of your laters a little bit higher. Underworld is nice. I think it is, I'm okay putting that in B tier. Let me know if you guys think I'm wrong on that. But I think it's deserving of at least that. It's on par with Shifting Sands. It would be kind of fun to do this tier list if we were just doing like by age. Like, okay, what is the best age 1 god power, right? Might be a little bit different response of what we see here. It's actually kind of funny, these two being so high on my list right now. But I really do think they are so good. There's the amount of value they give when they do. Bronze. Ooh. I think this thing is A tier. I think this is a really, really nice god power. Your army, if you've had a large standing army, you use bronze, you've got an unstoppable wave coming. I mean, let's do another one. We're at it. We've got the flaming weapons. I mean, this thing also super good, but I think flaming weapons is an S tier. I think this is one of the better god powers in the game. Bronze is really good, but it doesn't like, it's more defense than offense, which is why I think flaming weapons is deserving and be a little bit higher. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put bronze in the A tier. Flaming weapons, I'm gonna put up in there an S tier. I think it's absolutely one of the best timing attacks using the game, using that flaming weapons to just decimate your opponent. Like bronze is nice as far as your defense goes, right? But like offense, you'd rather have flaming weapons. Looking at that. Okay, we need to. Can I add a new tier in right here? Because boy, oh, what have I done? Oh, don't touch those buttons. Locust. It belongs not even on this list. It really shouldn't even be considered a god power. It is absolutely. This is the standout worst god power in the game. Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Tell me there's a god power worse than Locust. There isn't. The Locust Swarm is terrible. It doesn't kill anything. They buffed it, so now it does more damage, or it does less damage. It already does 0 damage, so now it does 0 damage over a wider area. Right? It's just bad. I don't know how I could even come close. And you see a trend here, like we got 2 like prominent raw god powers right here. Maybe spells out a little something of what you're looking at, that Civ. Citadel, definitely higher than those. Citadel can be nice. I don't think it's something super special. It's not a D tier. Protects your town center, maybe helps you get to the next age, maybe helps you defend an integral moment. I think it's a C tier. Nothing super special up here. C tier Citadel. I'm confident to put that there. Okay, looking at Ancestors. I feel like Ancestors could actually perhaps be on the A side. You gotta think about like Ancestors is often paired with Eclipse, so that's kind of a hard thing to kind of individually evaluate. But the speed of these guys, I mean, if you use Ancestors on a gold mine, like those villagers are dead or better be running. Can be paired in a big fight. Can soak damage. They can dish damage. I think it is on the A tier side of thing. It's kind of maybe unfair to some of these. I think that could be similar-ish to Ancestors. We'll see as we reevaluate at the very end. But I like it a lot. I think it's a solid god power to have. Ancestors we're gonna be putting in the A tier today. Okay, moving on. We've got, oh boy, this thing. I gotta say, if I had like a rank, like one of the most annoying god powers to play against, I just hate it so much when my whole army gets frozen. It drives me so mad. It's always like, I feel like I'm doing so good. I got some good momentum and boom, my whole army's frozen in carbonite. There's nothing I can do. Well, I really wonder if the real value is that high, but man, this is definitely one that like it keeps me up at night. When I know this thing's coming, it scares me. I'm afraid of the like. This should be the tier of, although you're not like really afraid of god power of this. Like you're afraid of these sentinels, you're afraid of bronze, you're afraid, like these are things you should be afraid of up here. And maybe this guy could perhaps go into that tier, but this is one I'm worried about is going to get used. I'm going to leave it there. I don't think it's S tier. I think it's there. Oh boy, now one. Oh boy, I don't know, guys. I almost could put the walking trees into S tier. It's probably truthfully an A tier, but man, this thing it can take out a town center. It can take out a hill fort. I think for that reason, like this is something you fear, and not only you fear, you're like, oh my gosh, like how many times I've raged out because I've got trees taking down my whole base. I think it's an S tier. I don't think it's as strong as these other two, but in another way, it's a good one. This one, while it stops your enemy's army in its track, this is doing some real damage. This is like a siege weapon that you get for free when you hit the next age. I think Walking Woods are gonna be an S tier. I'm putting them up there. Okay, so we've got the Hailstorm from this is from Urur, which you can get with Freyr, of course. And where does it go? The Hailstorm. I'm not entirely sure how impactful Hailstorm actually is. It's kind of a zoning god power. I mean, it is kind of similar-ish to like triggering like a shockwave. And if I would say, well, okay, well, Hailstorm's an H3 god power. Like it's definitely better than shockwave. But like the fact that it's like, it feels like a shockwave, which is an earlier god power here in H3. I kind of feel like it's on the lower side of things, but I think we got some less impactful ones here in the C tier. I'm gonna put Hailstorm here in B. Maybe some of these could be worthy of being bumped a little bit. I kind of feel like we need more tiers, but I'm gonna put Hailstorm in B. It's a middle of the road. It's an okay god power. It is nice. It's gonna zone your opponent in a fight. I think it's okay to have B tier. So we're gonna put them today. Okay, easy, boom. Chaos. This thing is absolutely crazy. It turns your whole army against itself. It can just deplete your forces in the right point in the game. I mean, oh man, I feel like some of these need to bump down to really show you that like some of these are just like absolutely oppressive. Chaos being one of them. I think S tier, absolutely deserving of Chaos. Trader. Now this gets 1 myth unit converted. It's a nice god power to have. I would almost say B tier, but at the same... You get in the third age, you're often stealing like an H3 myth unit in most cases. It's not amazing. It's nice to have. I think argument could be either way here. I'm gonna give it a little bit of respect. It is H3 god power. I mean, you could be grabbing, a Manticore with this thing, or who knows what you might be grabbing. Could be nice. B tier, I think, is where we're gonna put the Trader for now. Let me know if you think it should be higher or lower. Okay, oh boy. So you've got the Hesperides tree, right? For Gaia, most of the times when you're seeing this. Boy, we've seen this really come out in the meta lately, and I gotta say, with the recent buffs to add 2 Dryads immediately, these things make a great front line. You get 2 of them, meaning you get 4 Dryads for free, and you can train up these units. I believe they don't cost pop space unless that's changed and retold. I think it's nice to have. I think it's an A tier. I think it's a solid frontline to your army. I've been seeing it used in mini games lately. We've cast a lot of Gaia. I like it. A tier is where I'm going to be putting the Hesperides tree here today. Plenty. Vault of Plenty. Another weird ones. Economic god power. Is it A or S tier? I mean, you see games where it's like Hades players ends up with like 2, 3, 4 vaults if it goes super late, and it's like, boy, at that point, it's absolutely S tier. But does it compare to some of these other Age 4 god powers we're about to compare to? I'm not sure that it does, but I think arguments could be that this is like a sleeper S tier god power, perhaps. I'm gonna put them in the A tier for now. We're gonna come back to this, but I think it's A tier. It's a very, very good god power to have. Lightning Storm. Now the beta version of this, OP, S plus tier, right? But recently, It doesn't seem like the lightning storm does as much damage as it used to do. Is it? I mean, it is kind of, I guess, comparable to the plenty, which is, I mean, in ideal world, if the game is balanced right, you should see the similar god powers from each age next to each other in their tier. Because, you know, assuming I get this right, I would put this in S tier, but I don't think it compares to like the cost of using chaos over and over again, taking down earlier in the game some of your opponent's timing attacks. You get the walking woods, the curse. I think these are provide higher value often. And by the time lightning gets here, you know it's coming. You know your armor's gonna get sunk, whatever. I think it's good, but I don't think it's an S tier. A tier is where I'm gonna put the lightning. Earthquake. You know, some people are gonna say I didn't give the earthquake the respect it deserves, but I don't think earthquake is an amazing mythic age god power. It is. It can be okay in situations. If you're like in a defensive situation, it's certainly usually not helpful to use like right outside your base or something. I don't love it. I honestly think B is maybe higher than even what it deserves. Although some people might say, oh, it can be clutch in situations that level this or that. You typically know it's on the way. Maybe even upgrade your buildings, avoid the collateral damage. B tier. So we're gonna put earthquake here today. Ooh. The Son of Osiris. Where do we put him? So the Son of Osiris. Boy, this is a unique one. I love him. I really like this god power a lot. Is it an S tier god power? With the right micro, I would say Son of Osiris is super impactful, but it's not as impactful as some of these other S tiers coming up. I think it's a solid A tier. I don't think it's a B tier. I think it's way better than Earthquake. I think it's better than all of these ones. I think it's a solid A tier god power. I think it's deserving, and we've got some S tiers coming up. I'm happy with it. Son of Osiris going in the A tier. Tornado. Oh my god. I like, not even unironically, maybe you want to put this thing in D tier. Tornado is so bad in most situations. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've used Tornado and it just did absolutely nothing. But I think some of it is like, okay, how did you use it? Where to use it? You kind of know it's not amazing. But I think it's certainly better than some of these god powers. Looking down here, I'm not going to disrespect it with the C tier. I mean, is it like on par with Earthquake? You know, it is a mythic age god power. I'll give it the respect of a B tier. I don't love it. I would, if this was an age 4 tier list, it would not be this high. But it can be okay. You can sweep up like on a whole opponent's army. Potentially, if they're super clumped up, uses it offensively on the front line. It's okay here. I actually would say it's higher, you know, than Earthquake and stuff, but I'm okay with it being here. Tornado, we're gonna put it in the B tier, higher than it deserves, quite frankly. Meteor, ooh, I like this god power a lot. Is it S tier or is it A tier? I think we saw, I don't know if it's in the current build or in the upcoming pup build, that Meteor isn't doing as much damage as it used to do. I believe that was in the notes. So I almost wonder if it's like maybe not an S tier. Honestly, again, it's one of those, it's like you kind of know it's coming in many situations. You know, if I know I'm playing an Egyptian who maybe has this on the way, I'm spreading my base out, make sure I'm not building everything in one place. You know, like let's just get to the chase. You've been wondering, but it's like, okay, when you need an S tier god power, like, is Meteor the same as the nuclear Inferno Wolf? Like, absolutely not. The Wolf is so much better. I think it has to go in S tier. Meteor is very nice, but for a Mythic Age god power, I don't think I would say it's in the S tier. Like, I know I have these Age 3 ones up there, but like, these are really impactful for when they happen. Meteor can maybe stop your opponent from aging up. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, guys. I might be wrong. You tell me I'm wrong. I'm putting Meteor in the S tier. I think it is. I think it's up here with the Inferno Nuclear Wolf of Freyr. But I think they're both very good. I like it. I like Meteor better than Lightning. I like it. You know, I'm happy with this choice. I think it does deserve to be up there. So Egyptians, there you go. You got an S tier god power up there. We got mostly what? Norse? 1, 2, 3 Norse so far. Speaking of S tier god powers, where do you rank Ragnarok? That's kind of a tricky one, because it's like, okay, you give up. It's a risk reward god power, right? Now a lot of times it's like reward, right? You got your entire giant pop army of heroes, but if you lose it, it's like you lose the game. Your opponent's set up. I think this god power takes more finesse, certainly, than some of these other ones to do, right? To really get your myth units, your villagers built up enough that it's impactful. You've got enough that you're going to win a fight, take that decision. Is it an S or an A tier god power? I'm going to put it on the A tier just because, like, if you don't win with this, like, you've lost in most situations, right? You're losing all of your villagers. It's a huge risk. While I think it can be really swayed games in a lot of situations, there's also many times where it's like you overestimate what you're going to do with Ragnarok and then you lose the game. And I don't love that as like the all-in that it is. So I'm going to put an A tier because of it. Maybe underpointing a little bit, but it's going to be A tier for now. Now we got another Norse god power. Looking at the Fimbulwinter. You know, when it happens to me, it feels like an S tier. Like, you guys tell me, when this happens to you, like, I'm always like, God, oh my, this stupid Fimbulwinter again. Like, it feels like an S tier god power to me. But I feel like it's just like overreacting. And I feel like, you know, typically it's like, really, you just got to garrison inside. Maybe have some army ready to fight off these wolves if you want to defend something that's not garrisoned, whatever it might be. Feels like an S tier, but I think it probably realistically is actually an A tier god power. That's where I'm gonna put it here today. Let me know if you think it should be higher, but I think that's generally gonna be true. Nidhogg. Now, while I would say this is like S tier as far as like the coolest god power, just having like a flying dragon, it often doesn't feel like it's wildly impactful. And I'd almost argue, I'm not even certain it's A tier. The animations are super slow. If your opponent has a large ranged army, it's going to be negated pretty quickly. And I feel like there's rare times where you're like, oh yeah, Nidhogg really did a whole lot. I would say it's like similar, and a lot of times it's Tornado or Earthquake, where it's like, yeah, it was okay, but then it like quickly died and went away. It was fine. I'm going to put in the B tier here for day. Honestly, I could even see some of these, because I really don't like any of these god powers, could perhaps go lower down in the list, but we'll give them the respect they deserve. B tier for a Mythic Age god power, you know, compared to like some of these other options. I think that's where it should be. Okay, so we've got what? Implode. We've got 1, 2, 3 Atlantean ones left. So I feel like I'm going to mess this one up, quite frankly. Oh, man, I'm forgetting which one this is. Oh, man, this is where my Atlantean knowledge is going to hit me hard, guys. Isn't this the one that brings your whole army to a location, I believe is what this is? I might be mistaken on that. You know what? I'm going to do you guys a favor. I can't remember exactly. I think that's what it is, right? It teleports your whole army to a given location, I believe is what it is. It's a B tier. Either way, it's like, okay, let's just say this. I haven't seen it a whole lot, so it's clearly not an A or S tier. No one's used this god power. It's probably a B tier. I bet it's on par with these guys. I think that's where it is. I never see people use it. Why did I say that? Because this is the only one you see. And honestly, Implode, when I use this, it feels like a D tier god power. And units can run away from it. It feels like if it doesn't suck in some stuff, it does like nothing. In many situations, it feels like that's what happens. Even when you think you're gonna get it, I think this might be a Mythic Age god power I'm willing to put in the C tier. Honestly, when it does like get a bunch of things trapped in it, it feels like, oh my gosh, it just took out a ton of stuff. But more than often than not, when this thing's used, it's like, what just happened? This was a waste of god power. It did not, like, if you're not using this in the middle of your opponent's town and it's sucking a lot of things in, doesn't feel super awesome. And I've felt frustrated or underwhelmed in most cases with Implode. I'm giving it more credit than it's due, guys. I'm gonna put the B tier. I want to put in C, but that's just my frustrations using Implode in many situations. I think it's a B tier. And the fact, since we never see this guy, he's going in the C tier. He's going to go down there because I bet that's where it is. You just don't see it. You never see it used. And last, we got the Tartarian Gate. Tartarian, I think that's what it's called. Man, let me know if I got that pronunciation wrong. we get the gate. It spawns out these little demons from the underworld, right? And explodes a little bit in the base. I think it's like on par of like, okay, Mythic Age God powers. It's like stronger than these, but it's gonna be okay. Now we got this whole board filled out. Let's take a second and determine what did we get right, what did we miss. Let's go through S tier: Curse, Flaming Weapons, Walking Woods. We have Chaos, Meteor, and then our Nuclear Demolition Wolf. I am honestly happy with all these being S tier. I wouldn't move any of them down. Maybe could make cases for Walking Woods perhaps not being... is it really... You know what? As strong as I think Walking Woods is, I don't think it's as strong as these other ones. So for that reason, I'm going to put the delineation. I'm going to bump them down. A tier. We might move some other ones down as well. So we're moving down. Let's go to A tier. So Sentinel, and these two might be the ones that surprise you. But I'm kind of confident. I think the thing is, you got to realize, like, depending on where your skill level is, the amount of value these can just provide of the safety of your base, particularly in games where your opponent might be really trying to raid you a lot, or you go late game and the gold becomes scarce. This is super good god power to have. I think it's. I think I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to keep both of these there in the A tier. Bronze. I think can stay in A tier with the. I'll leave it there. A tier with Walking Woods, fine. Same thing with the under. With the ancestors. We got our frost. Got our trees. Got our plenty of lightning. Yeah, I'm okay with this A tier. I think all these things are probably deserving to be here, quite frankly. Let me know if you think any of them should move down, if they're too high. Now look at the B tier. Let's see. This is where it's kind of, it just starts to become a mixed bag of god powers. It's crazy. You see, I've put some like later game god powers in the B tier along some of their H2 or H1s. I mean, obviously it's not a one-on-one comparison. Like, you know, obviously all these are better than Bolt, right? But just like for what they are and what they're supposed to add is the Mythic Age. It's like, is it a great god power compared to their other options? Let's see here. So what could maybe go up or down? Bolt there. Prosperity, I think that's fine. We got Spy. We got the Gillen Bursty. Maybe on the higher side than it can be, but I think it's okay. Restoration. Valor, we talked about the value you get out of Valor. We got basically our teleportation of these. These are really nice, just zoning in fights. Taking one myth unit, and then you've got some of these Age 4 god powers are rather underwhelming. I think it's fine. I don't think any of these really should go down. I'm pretty happy with they are. I'm not sure many of them are even really worth the promotion. Maybe I'm giving Implode a harder time than it deserves, honestly, compared to these other options, but I'm going to leave where it is. I think that's fine. Okay, taking a look at C. I'm glad I figured out which I is what. I know it's right. This is the set one. This is the Loki one. Let's see. What here could we maybe move up or move down? We've got basically our extra food. There's like... these consider like god powers that like I just like literally don't like and I think are terrible. And I don't feel that about any of these. These all feel like they're okay. They don't feel terrible to me. They all feel like they're decent god powers. I think they're deserving in the C tier. Don't think they should be moved down. You know, maybe some arguments for like these two to perhaps move up depending on the timing of when they get used. Perhaps you could maybe see the same thing about this or that. But I think it's okay. And then we're left with our worst god powers in the game. Rain, Locust, Pestilence, Snakes, Forest Fire, and our traps with the spider layers. I'm happy with it, guys. I think we have a pretty thorough tier list. Now, of course, I don't get everything perfect. There's a lot that could be adjusted if you were to go back at this again. But let me know, guys. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Are there other or other tier lists that you would like to see? Let me know about it. I've got a lot of tier lists in mind. And a huge shout out, by the way. I was able to do this tier list because Chutbeaks put this tier list together, and I know that took some time to put all these images into it, so I greatly appreciate. And if you want to see me do some other tier lists, you can go ahead and email them to me, fitzbrogaming@gmail.com. I got a link down below. And I just might do a tier list for one of your favorite things. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, leave me a comment below and a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for plenty more of my Age of Mythology content. This is actually the first tier list I've ever done for Age of Mythology Retold. So hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.